couple of months ago, my father passed away from a heart attack. I recently discovered from his will that I have a half-sister. My mother passed away when I was in middle school, so my father's estate was to be divided among 3 people: my grandmother, my sister, and me. I had no idea about my sister's existence until a few weeks ago when my lawyer informed us. Apparently she's around my age, and my father had been supporting her financially since she was born. For this post, I'll call her Amelia. I'm 31 years old, and she's around 28. After a long discussion with my dad's lawyer, I learned my father had an affair with a co-worker for a few months. He wanted to end the affair, but she got pregnant and decided to keep the baby. My father chose to step up and be there for her, paying child support and meeting her occasionally on alternate weekends. We don't know if my mother knew, but it doesn't matter now. The fact remains that I discovered my dad had secrets. Even though he's gone and I should probably forgive him, it feels like I didn't know him at all. It's tough to come to terms with. When my dad's lawyer asked if I wanted to contact Amelia, I said I'd think about it. I know it's not her fault, but I just didn't want to see her. Everything is still too fresh. I didn't want to seem heartless, so I said I'd think about it, even though I had already decided I didn't want a relationship with her, at least not yet. My grandmother, however, thought I should give it a chance and see what it's like to have a sister, even if she's only my half-sister. I didn't express my disinterest to my grandmother, especially since she had already agreed to meet Amelia. I could tell she wanted to establish a relationship with her. That was about 5 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, I was shocked to find out Amelia had moved in next door. I discovered this on a weekend when my doorbell rang early in the morning. I usually don't get visitors that early, so I was surprised to find Amelia standing outside. I had stalked her on social media and knew what she looked like, but I didn't expect her to be at my door. I was in shock and had nothing to say, but she seemed happy to see me. She told me she had come from New York, where she had been living for the past few years, and had rented the house next door to be close to me. She introduced herself and mentioned that she and her boyfriend run a PR agency for social media creators, which explained how she could afford to move. After some small talk, she addressed the elephant in the room, saying she had always known about me and had heard a lot from our father. She hadn't reached out before because our dad told her I wouldn't be ready. And he was right. I still wasn't ready. It still feels weird to call him our dad. I was awkward around her from the start because I wasn't expecting her. She seemed so excited to see me that I felt guilty for not wanting her around. She had come all the way from New York, rented a house nearby, and left her nice home with her boyfriend, which I'd seen on social media. She did all of this for me, and I didn't even want her there, making me feel bad. So I decided to be nice to her. She told me that after I asked our dad's lawyer for time to think about having a relationship with her, he refused to give her my address. But she had been talking to our grandmother, who suggested the idea and even gave her my contact info and address so she could surprise me. I was upset with my grandma because she knew I was still considering things and hadn't made a decision yet. She had no right to give out my address. Anyway, after spending that morning talking to Amelia, I thought I might give our relationship a chance. If she was putting in so much effort to connect with me, she couldn't be that bad. When we met last week, I thought she was nice and sweet. I figured we could get to know each other over the next few months. She mentioned being sick of living in New York and that their business was running itself with everyone working from home. She could move down here to be closer to her mother, me, and her grandma. The thought of having her as my neighbour was intimidating, but I felt guilty seeing how nice she was. So I told her it would be a fantastic idea. I believed her early morning visit was a one-time thing since she had just landed to the previous night and couldn't wait to see me. I assumed when she said she wanted to build a relationship, She meant we could take our time, but she started showing up at my house every other day, bringing breakfast and forcing me to eat with her. I'm not a morning person and prefer to be alone with my coffee and thoughts, but she'd come with donuts or bagels and start talking. To escape, I'd leave for work. After a few days, she started showing up after I got home from work too. This was a big problem because, as an oncologist, my work is stressful and I need time and space to unwind. I can't entertain guests as soon as I get home, but she'd be at my door within 15 minutes. It was exhausting, and though I knew she was trying to be nice and build a relationship, she wasn't respecting my boundaries. 2 days ago, after an exceptionally exhausting day at work, I just wanted to curl up with a good book and a glass of wine and then sleep. But Amelia showed up again just as I had returned home and freshened up. Annoyed with her behaviour, I couldn't take it anymore. I opened the door and, instead of inviting her in, told her I needed her to back off a bit. My tone might have been rough, but I tried to be as polite and civil as possible because I was exhausted and didn't want to talk to anyone. I told her directly that I needed my space and time to get to know her. We couldn't become close sisters in just 2 weeks. It wasn't enough time. She had known about me her whole life, but I had only found out about her a few months ago. It wasn't the same for me, and I needed her to respect my boundaries. I told her she was welcome to hang out at my place on the weekends, but during the weekdays I was too tired after work to deal with anything. I hoped she would understand, and she said she did. After she left, I shut the door. She kept a poker face the entire time, so I couldn't tell what she was feeling, but I knew I had tried to be polite and nice, so I didn't feel particularly guilty. However, yesterday I got a call from my grandmother, who was disappointed in me for how I treated Amelia. She said Amelia was just trying to be nice and make up for lost time. In a couple of weeks, Amelia would have to go back to her boyfriend in New York to wrap things up before moving back here permanently. She was excited to have a sister and was trying to get to know me, but I had told her to back off. I thought my grandmother was being unfair. I explained that I just wanted space and needed my boundaries respected. I was still open to a relationship, just not one moving so fast. But my grandmother insisted I owed Amelia an apology, saying Amelia felt like she had forced her company on me. I understand why Amelia might not get why I said what I did, since she hasn't known me long, but my grandmother has known me my whole life. I felt she should understand where I was coming from. Everyone who knows me knows I'm an introvert. I prefer to be alone rather than spend time with people. It's not about feeling superior. I just like my own company, and occasionally spending time with friends. I'm not at a place where I can call Amelia my friend yet. She's been nice, but whenever she visits, she just talks about herself. It gets boring because I don't get to talk. I don't understand how she expects to get to know me better if she's doing all the talking. I'm in my 30s, and I need my peace and quiet. I expected my grandmother to understand that, but instead, we ended up fighting over the phone. She took an accusatory tone, acting like I was trying to hurt Amelia on purpose. She expected me to apologize, but I told her I wouldn't apologize for having boundaries. She then said if I wanted to be on my own, she thought it best to cut me off too. I found that hurtful because it felt like she was threatening to cut me off if I didn't play nice with Amelia, even though Amelia was getting on my nerves. Now, I don't know what to believe anymore. Amelia was just trying to be nice, and I'm the one who slammed the door shut. After the fight with my grandmother, I feel like even more of a jerk. I don't know what to feel, but I think my actions are justified. I need an unbiased opinion, which is why I'm on Reddit. Am I the arsehole for telling my half-sister to back off, and that I need my space and can't hang out with her every day? Update. After reading the comments, I've concluded that I did the right thing. I need space and time to process everything. I can't do that if she keeps showing up at my door every day. So, I'm sticking to my decision and told my grandmother I'm not going to talk to Amelia and apologise. I don't have anything to apologise for. I was nice to Amelia. It's been a couple of days and Amelia hasn't shown up since I told her to back off. My grandmother hasn't spoken to me either. I guess she's waiting for me to apologise to Amelia, but that's not going to happen. We're at a dead end. Last evening, when I came back from work, I saw my grandmother leaving Amelia's house. She lives a couple of houses away, so we usually walk to each other's places. When I entered my house, I saw her from my window and realised she was visiting Amelia, and not me. I feel bad because I'm really close to my grandma. With my dad passing away recently, it's hard to handle the cold shoulder from her. I wanted peace and quiet, so I can't force her to talk to me. It sucks because I expected her to understand where I was coming from since she's known me all my life. Now it seems like she's decided whose side she's on, even though she didn't need to pick sides. She could have just respected my opinion. I don't mean to be whiny, but Amelia had no reason to complain to my grandmother. I've been as nice as possible to her. From what my grandmother said, Amelia made it sound like I was very curt and harsh. I can't force people to understand me and respect my opinions. If they want to think I'm the villain for having boundaries, they are free to do so. At least I have my own space now and can relax on my own instead of entertaining guests as soon as I wake up or come home from work. That's one good thing that has come out of this. Update. 2 weeks ago, I posted my last update. Since then, nothing much has happened. Amelia stopped visiting, and a couple of days back, I saw her getting into a cab with some of her stuff. It was the weekend, and I was taking my usual morning walk. I asked her where she was headed, and she said she was going back to New York for a couple of days to wrap things up and return with her boyfriend. Her tone was very different, and I tried not to feel weird about it, but I did. She was short with me, and I felt taken aback. She didn't like that I had drawn a line, and while she respected it, she didn't appreciate it. That's her call to make. If she doesn't like me and thinks I'm the bad guy, I can't help it. I haven't spoken to my grandmother since that last phone call because I haven't apologised to Amelia. Now I feel like I did the right thing. This morning my grandmother showed up at my place. I thought she was there to sort things out and I was happy. But she said she was there to discuss my behaviour. I was confused until she said she believed I needed a therapist to process my emotions and let them out in a healthy way instead of isolating myself from people who care about me. I found that bizarre because I haven't isolated myself from anyone. All I did was tell Amelia I didn't want to see her every day. I was still open to talking to my grandmother and keeping in touch. She was the one shutting me out. As for isolating myself, I don't think I'm doing that at all. I hang out with my co-workers at lunch and occasionally meet up with friends. That's how it has always been. I just don't like going out to hang out with people or having them over every day. I think that's pretty normal. I don't need a therapist for that. I got a bit offended when she suggested it and told her I was perfectly healthy and normal. If I needed a therapist, it would be to deal with the loss of my father, not because she thought I was being weird for not wanting to hang out with a sister I didn't know existed until a few weeks ago. My grandmother insisted that speaking to a mental health professional would do me good because she thought my behaviour wasn't right and she was worried about me. I asked if she was so worried, why hadn't she spoken to me all this time? She said she was waiting for me to reach out and apologise to Amelia. Since I didn't, she felt she had to come talk to me herself. She thought I might be seeing Amelia as the villain since my dad passed away. It was ridiculous because I didn't think badly of Amelia. I just needed space. No matter how hard I tried to explain, she wouldn't get it. She continued to express her concern, warning that if I kept acting like this, I'd end up alone. I finally snapped and told her I already felt alone since both my parents were gone, and she thought I needed help, but wouldn't actually talk to me. I wasn't worried about being on my own anymore. I told her I had to leave for work, and she left. I had a pretty exhausting day because I was in such a terrible mood. I feel like both my grandmother and Amelia are taking things too far, trying to make me feel guilty for no reason. I was so annoyed today that I talked to a couple of my friends about what happened. They all said I did nothing wrong. I was nice to everyone, but made it clear I needed space. There's nothing bad about that. If someone feels offended by it, they don't deserve a place in my life. If my grandmother thinks there's something wrong with me, she can go on believing that. I don't care anymore. I'm done dealing with such immature people. Update. 3 days have passed since my last update, and a lot has happened. My grandmother wanted me to see a therapist to sort out my feelings, even though I was clear about what I wanted. She didn't say anything that day, but the next day she started texting me, sending lists of therapists, including ones who offer online sessions. The implication that something was wrong with me for not wanting to entertain Amelia every day was getting on my nerves. I didn't block her, but I muted her notifications and haven't responded since. Yesterday, while I was at work, my dad's lawyer called and said he wanted to discuss something with me. We got on a call a few minutes later and he told me my dad's former partner wanted to speak to me. Initially, he had said that Amelia's mother had no interest in talking to me, but Amelia wanted to build a relationship. Her sudden change of heart surprised me. I thought she might berate me like my grandmother did, and I didn't need more of that. My first impulse was to say no to avoid more drama, but my dad's lawyer said it sounded urgent. That got me thinking, so I told him to give her my number. Half an hour later she called. After introducing herself, she got straight to the point. She said she and Amelia had always known about me and apologized for my father's passing. She revealed that my grandmother had known about the affair and had been a very active part of their lives. This was a shock because my grandmother had always acted like she had no idea. I felt incredibly betrayed. My grandmother had known about Amelia and never told me. She acted like she had no idea. Amelia also lied, but it hurt more coming from my grandmother. I thanked Amelia's mother for telling me the truth and hung up. I decided never to speak to my grandmother or Amelia again. They knew the truth and kept me in the dark. If anyone needs therapy, it's the two of them. It's clear they are a team, and now everything makes sense. While I haven't blocked them, I'm making sure I don't have to speak to them again. I'm still processing all of this. I was right when I said I have nobody in my family to count on. It sucks that everyone I knew has been lying to me for so long. I wouldn't be surprised if my mother knew about the affair too. Update. A couple of months have passed since my last update. I have remained in no contact with my grandmother and Amelia. She lives next door with her boyfriend, but we don't even say hi. I'm fine with that. I prefer it because they are all liars, and I don't want to see them. Unfortunately, she already rented the house, so I don't have a say. My grandmother visits Amelia frequently and hasn't reached out to me since I cut her off. Initially, I felt bad because it seemed like I had no family left, but I came to terms with it. I realized having no family is better than having a family who lies and disrespects you. At least I have my friends who I know I can count on. My life is going great, and I'm fine with everything that happened. I'm willing to put the past